Regular meeting number 3 will now come to order. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes. Let us pray. O God, who arrange all things in wondrous order and govern in marvelous ways, look with favor on this city council and all our city officials, for whom we now pray, and mercifully pour out on them the spirit of your wisdom. May their efforts be blessed with insight. May they seek to serve with respect for all. And may their personal faith give them strength to act honestly and well in the matters before them. May they be effective in their efforts to bring to the people of Columbus a new awareness of the importance of cardiovascular diseases in women. May they make decisions that promote the common good. May they recognize clearly their responsibility to the past and to the future, and to the rights and needs of both individuals and our community. May they know how best to help the people of Columbus who are in need, the homeless, the hungry, immigrants, and those without work. As trusted public servants, these men and women seek your blessing on their deliberations and efforts here today. May they act wisely and well, and may you continue to bless all the people of our city in many ways. We ask this in your name, our loving God. Amen.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal?
So move.
Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
This week's communications received by the City Clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the City Bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I request that the following resolution be removed from the consent action portion of the agenda, Resolution 0027X-2013. Are there any other requests for ordinances or resolutions to be removed from the consent action portion of the agenda? Thank you. In Public Service and Transportation this evening, we'd also like to remove 0080-2013 from the consent agenda portion of the agenda. Seeing none, are there any announcements or resolutions from members of council? Councilmember Craig.
Thank you, President Ginther. I do have several announcements. There is a free tax preparation and filing for military veterans. The date is February the 16th and March the 2nd from 9 a.m. To 2 o'clock p.m. The location is the downtown high school at 364 South 4th Street, Columbus. And it has been extended to all military veterans with household incomes up to $60,000 in 2012. It's been staffed by the J.P. Morgan Chase volunteers. Next is a call for Vietnam era photos from Ohio Vietnam veterans as a tribute to veterans of the Vietnam War. The Ohio Department of Veterans Services is requesting photos of Ohio veterans who serve our nation during this time period. Selected photos will be used as a part of a video collage, which will appear on our YouTube site during the Welcome Home celebration that will be held in the honor of our Vietnam veterans, March the 26th, 2013 through March the 29th, 2013. And in commemoration of Vietnam Veterans Day on March the 30th, 2013. A link will be posted on the department's Facebook and Twitter pages when the tribute is available to view. To become part of this tribute, please email a photo of you or your loved one by February the 15th, 2013 to vets, VCS, at dvs.ohio.gov. Minimum photo requirements: wallet size 4x6 or 5x7 inches, JPEG format only. 1 to 3 photos per submission. Photos should be in uniform and have been taken during the Vietnam era time period. Photos will not be accepted after February the 15th, 2013. And again, please email photos to vets, VSC, at dvs.ohio.gov. And for further information, you can contact my office at 645-8538. Again, that number is 645-8538, and ask to speak with Sherry Martin. Thank you. That is all that I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Craig. Councilmember Klein. President Pro Tem Miller. Councilmember Mills. Councilmember Paley. Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you. And yes, I have a resolution this evening, and I'm going to ask, because I'm beginning to read the resolution, I'm going to ask Dr. Mehta and Ms. Shealy to start walking toward the podium. And this is resolution number 0027X-2013. And it is to declare February 1st of 2013 to be Wear Red Day in Columbus, and to raise awareness of the cardiovascular disease as the leading cause of death among women. Whereas cardiovascular diseases are the leading cause of death among women over the age of 20, killing approximately 1 woman every minute. Whereas 90% of women have one or more risk factors for developing cardiovascular disease. And whereas an estimated 43 million women in the United States are affected by cardiovascular diseases. And whereas since 1984, more women than men have died each year from cardiovascular disease, and the gap between men and women's survival continues to widen. And whereas February is designated as American Heart Month. And whereas the American Heart Association's Gold Red for Women movement has been impacting the health of women for 10 years, and more than 627,000 women's lives have been saved, and 330 fewer women are dying every day. And be it resolved by the Council of the City of Columbus that this council recognizes the importance of the ongoing fight against heart disease and stroke, and does hereby declare February 1, 2013 to be the Wear Red Day in Columbus. Be it further resolved that this council urges Columbus residents to wear red in recognition of family, friends, and neighbors who have suffered from heart disease, and show support for women and cardiovascular health. I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. And I also want to, before they are going to speak, want to thank my council members and even the council staff for all wearing red today. And I also want to thank Mr. Dorian, who has his red tie on today. So we all are in support of Wear Red Day. And now, But Rick is quite supportive, right, Attorney Pfeiffer? You're supportive of? Very much. Thank you so much. All right. Well, now, Dr. Mehta, the podium is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Tyson, Council President Ginther, and all members of the Council. As President of the American Heart Association Central Ohio Board of Directors, a cardiologist, and as a woman, female, I'm thrilled to see your overwhelming support for the Go Red movement, especially this year is our 10th anniversary. And as you had mentioned, heart disease is the #1 killer of women, and 90% of women are at risk for developing this disease. However, 80% of it is preventable, and there's a lot that we can do. Over the last 10 years, the American Heart Association, with the Go Red movement, has really made a lot of strides, has improved the awareness of heart disease in women. We've reduced the number of women dying from heart disease over the last decade, which is quite impressive. What we've also been able to show that, as the American Heart Association, is that women who actually join the Go Red movement, about 90% of them make at least one change or a healthy change in their lifestyle, which is impressive. Now, 25% of the women recognize that heart disease is the #1 killer. So that really tells us that there's still 75% of the women we need to reach out and really make aware of the differences they can do for their health. Another visible way is actually to join the National Wear Red Day. And as we said, Friday, February 1st is the 10th anniversary of it, now officially Wear Red Day in Columbus. So we offer our most heartfelt appreciation to you, Councilwoman Tyson, and the entire council for actually supporting the Go Red movement and supporting the visual Go Red throughout the city of Columbus. It really shows your strong support for our movement and really improving the healthy lives of women, not only in Columbus, but throughout the country. Thank you.
Ms. Shealy.
Yes, as the Executive Director of the American Heart Association here in Columbus, I'd just like to second Dr. Mehta's words and thank you for being a champion for the heart health of our community. We greatly appreciate your support.
Thank you for the work that you do each and every day to ensure that women have the proper information to be able to live healthy lives. And just thank you for all the work. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you. President Ginther, I don't have a resolution, but I wanted to just give this council an opportunity to hear what's going on in our community in regards to individuals that are homeless in our community. And so it's just been so cold out in the community to be able to have an update from Michelle Heritage. Good evening, Ms. Ward. Ms. Heritage, I'm sorry.
It was Ward for a very long time, so that's absolutely okay. Thanks so much for having me tonight. I really appreciate being able to come down and give you an update on what's happening with folks experiencing homelessness in our community. As you well know, the City of Columbus is the largest investor in ending homelessness in this community and an important partner for what we're able to get done. We are seeing significant increases in the number of folks who are needing shelter since it's gotten colder. We still have enough beds to serve everybody, and as you know, when it's 25 degrees or under, it doesn't matter how many folks need shelter, we will make sure that everybody's safe and out of harm's way from the cold. We have had constant wait lists in the summer and certainly up until we opened the overflow site. Right now, our demand is up 100% for families for overflow and 300% for single women in terms of overflow. So to accommodate that increased need, our city's 7 shelters have expanded their walls and maximized their bed capacities, and the YMCA has opened the overflow site to serve people during the extreme winter months. And what we know, that shelter is temporary, but it does meet a basic need to make sure that no one is outside when it's dangerously cold. Anyone in need of shelter, I wanted to say, should call the coordinated point of access for single adults. That's 1-888-474-3587. And if you have children and are experiencing homelessness or need help, call the YWCA Family Center at 253-7970. We are keeping an eye on the future as we watch this uptick in demand for shelter, and we're making progress on our broadly held plans to redesign the shelter system for single adults and our crisis response. And with the increased need, we are feeling that pressure to get that redesign underway as quickly as possible. Later, we'll be talking about some legislation that funds permanent supportive housing, which is operated by YMCA and Southeast. And this housing does address the needs for folks that are long-term homeless and have disabilities. The great news of the day is that housing is very effective in ending homelessness, and 90% of the folks that are served in those units remain stably housed for a very long period of time. I want to say thank you again for your support, your investment, all the vice and counsel that we received at the Community Shelter Board. This year we had a hard time going, as we all know, getting that overflow site opened. We did get it opened, and part of the redesign really needs to address that we need to have something on a more permanent basis to make sure that we don't have to run around every year and try to find a site, especially about something as important as winter overflow.
Councilman Klein.
Thank you for coming down and giving us the update. Regarding the overflow, and I know it's not in the city of Columbus, but it's very close to the city of Columbus. Can you give us an update on how long that's been open? There were some community concerns, and have those been addressed? What's the community feedback been thus far, and have there been any incidences of issues or problems? Thank you.
It is right outside the city of Columbus. The overflow has been open since the very beginning of January. We have not had any incidents. As a matter of fact, we are working the child care center that's right next door, had the most concerns. We've been working with them through the Good Neighbor Agreement. I believe they'll probably be the first to sign on to that Good Neighbor Agreement, which is great news. We haven't had any trouble with our shuttle service or our bus stops. CODA's been an excellent partner in running those bus stops. And then the warming stations that have been opened all over the city of Columbus have also been a really helpful add-on. But I think just as in a lot of cases, when you work really hard with the neighbors, you listen to what they have to say, make the changes that they're requesting, we find in the end that we can be partners and neighbors, even with something that sometimes is as concerning as a shelter. We continue to have our Good Neighbor meetings every other week. We will continue to have that well into the future until no one shows up and doesn't seem to want to do it, but we continue to have those meetings every other week in the community.
Thank you, Ms. Ward, for coming down. I thought it was important that not only this council, but the listening and viewing audience have an understanding of what work we're doing in our communities, especially since the weather has been so cold for individuals. So I appreciate that. I also want to say thank you for last Thursday hosting the point in time count for kind of the census of individuals that are homeless in our community, and also having the number of nonprofit organizations there to be able to be supportive of those individuals. So thank you for coming down and sharing.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And lastly, I just have a couple of announcements I want to make. The Ohio State University College of Dentistry will host its first Give Kids a Smile Day, providing free dental exams, cleanings, extractions, fillings, and crowns for children younger than 18 years of age. The event will be held Saturday, February the 9th from 9 to 4 at the Ohio State University College of Dentistry in Postle Hall. Appointments will be scheduled on a first-come, first-served basis, so be sure to make your appointment as soon as possible. To schedule an appointment, please call 614-688-1411. And then my last announcement is from February through April, Tax Time will be providing free tax preparation services for households whose incomes up to $60,000 in more than 40 sites across Central Ohio. The kickoff is this Saturday. Super Saturday will take place from 9 to 5. Drop-ins are welcome. However, those who wish to participate can cut down on their wait time if they call ahead and schedule an appointment. For more information, please call 211 or 1-800-648-1176. And remember, sites will remain open on evenings and weekends through the month of April. Thank you. That's all I have in resolutions and announcements.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. Are there any comments from City Auditor, City Attorney? Are there any other requests besides those made earlier for removal of any other items from the consent agenda portion of the agenda? If not, may we now have a motion to waive reading of the titles of 30-day legislation by the City Clerk?
So moved.
Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record the ordinance numbers of 30-day legislation on tonight's agenda for first reading?
Development Committee, Ordinance 237-2013. Public Service and Transportation Committee, Ordinances 85 and 162-2013. Public Utilities Committee, Ordinance 2816-2012, 2833, 2834, 2835, 2838, 2839, 2840, 2850, 2851-2012. Ordinances 1 and 9-2013. Zoning Committee, Ordinances 0184, 2013, and 2635-2012.
The following ordinances appear on our agenda as consent actions. Will the clerk now read the ordinance numbers of each into the record?
Resolutions of expression 24X, 25X-2013. Ordinance 75-2013, Development Committee, Ordinances 81, 82, 83, 84, 91, 92, 112, 142, 143, 144, 153, 200, 204, 226-2013, Recreation and Parks Committee, Ordinance 2800-2012, 61 and 67-2013, Public Safety and Judiciary Committee, Ordinances 87, 117, 118, and 135-2013, Public Service and Transportation Committee, Ordinance 2886-2012, 2890, 2894-2012, and Ordinances 64, 68, 72, 74, 100, 137-2013, Resolution 18X-2013, 19X-2013, and Ordinance 235-2013. Public Utilities Committee, Ordinances 2729, 2744, 2762, 2763, 2764, 2868, 2889-2012, and Ordinances 41, 89, and 95-2013. Appointments from the Mayor's Office, numbered A0001-2013. Also appointments 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15-2013.
Thank you. We do have one speaker on the consent agenda on Ordinance 0082-2013 in development, Mr. Nathaniel Wilkins. Mr. Wilkins, welcome to Council Chambers. If you'd come forward to the podium and share your name, address, any organizations you represent. And, sir, you have 3 minutes. I think you've signed up to speak in support of 0082-2013. Sir?
Nathaniel George Wilkins, 1612 Arlington Avenue. I'm speaking in favor of this. I got several questions here. Lexington Avenue. I would like to know how long that this property had been holding the land bank. If there's also a vacant structure on this. And again, I would like to know what this site is looking like, who has it, what's in the purpose of this being in the line of emergency. Also, when you have these type of properties that's sitting in land bank, I think they should move fast enough. And again, when we have property that sit like this, there's no for sale signs or anything else. my frustration again is also when there's property out here that's not being developed as quickly enough. I'd just like to share 3 photos with y'all, and I will close on this. And again, a while back, I went down Linden Avenue to take a look at this. I want to know why that this particular property is not into the land bank, even though it has sit like this for quite some time. Also, when land bank property comes, or any vacant structure, all I see is vacant signs and notices, such as this property is 1658 or Arlington Avenue. I want to briefly talk to you. The siding has been stripped. And again, to get property holding a land bank with for sale signs on these structures, it would do us some help in some of these poor communities. I'd like to mention another address to you, and that's 1609 or Arlington Avenue. And because of this, I don't know, B&B owns this particular house. It's right in front of my house. And today it still sits boarded up. I just want to share a few comments with Priscilla Tyson here, to the Finance Department. And again, let me say I'm sorry to you, Priscilla Tyson, that I couldn't make it to your Finance Department. I will hand you a letter to the end of this meeting today. It also expressed my concerns with the $4,000 budget, and I hope to hand it to you after the comments. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Wilkins from council members? Deputy Director Brandon, is there any additional information on 0082-2013 you'd like to share with council?
Thank you, President Ginther, Chairman Klein, and members of council. This property has been in the land bank. Unfortunately, I don't have the date that it was donated into the land bank, but we aggressively try to market all of our properties for sale. I don't know, we don't have signs in front of them. Really, we're not trying to draw negative attention to the property. We do what we can to maintain the property, board up the windows, and secure it. But all of our properties are listed on our website for sale. Anyone that's interested in reaching out to our property managers can do so and see the properties. This one in particular is going to be renovated and placed back into tax generating position. It's going to be used as a rental property, and we're transferring it. We're going to generate a small amount of money, but that is not the goal here. The goal is to get the properties back into productive use. And right now we believe that based on the application submitted, the person who we are transferring this property to will responsibly rehab it and rent it out to a family or end user that will make the property more positive.
Thank you, Deputy Director Brandon. Any questions or follow-up? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve these items designated as consent actions.
So moved.
Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll by voice.
Craig?
Yes.
Klein? Yes. Miller? Yes. Mills?
Yes.
Haley? Tyson?
Yes, but I'm abstaining from 0075-2013 and 2886-2012.
President Ginther.
Yes, consent agenda carries. We will now proceed with the second reading, a 30-day tabled emergency legislation. The first committee is the Finance Committee. Councilmember Tyson chairs that committee. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. The first 3 ordinances that I will be introducing this evening will be introducing amendments to those ordinances and will establish appropriations for the administration's proposed 2013 budget. I will now read the titles of the proposed ordinances into the record pursuant to the city charter. The first is 2630-2012 to make appropriations for 12 months ending December 31st, 2013 for each of the several object level ones for which the City of Columbus has to provide from the monies known to be in the treasury of the said City of Columbus and in the fund known as the General Fund during the said 12 months from the collection of all taxes and from other sources of revenue, the amount of $773,665,000, and to declare an emergency. I first moved to remove from the table.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. Now I move to amend.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. And I move to table for 1 week.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 2631-2012. This ordinance makes appropriations and transfers for 12 months ending December 31st, 2013 for other funds from various divisions to authorize the city auditor to make transfers as may be necessary and to declare an emergency. I first move to motion to take this item from the table.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. I move to amend.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. And I move to table for 1 week.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 2633-2012 to make appropriations for 12 months ending December 31st of 2013 for selected other funds for various divisions to authorize the city auditor to make transfers as may be necessary and to declare an emergency. I first have a motion to remove this item from the table.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. Thank you. I move to amend.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. And I move to table for 1 week.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 2802-2012, and I'm going to ask a number of the speakers to move up to the podium. I'm going to first ask the Chief Executive Officer, Pat Lazinski from the Columbus Metropolitan Library, Attorney John Rosenberger, and Ms. Ann Kelly from the Division of Real Estate. They can all move towards the podium. This is Ordinance 2802-2012 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to execute the necessary documents to release a use restriction that encumbers a property at 400 East Town Street. The library has requested that the city release its residential use restriction in order to allow the library to use 400 East Town Street property for its purposes. This ordinance authorizes the Director of Finance and Management, contingent on the purchase of the property by the library, to execute the required quick claim deed to release a residential use restriction on said property. Acquisition of this property by the library provides a contiguous expansion site for its otherwise landlocked main library location, and the property will either be fully or partially redeveloped for library purposes, with any balance of the property not so used made available for redevelopment by others for uses complementary to the adjacent main library. And so, with that, we will now have a presentation by the Chief Executive Officer of the Columbus Metropolitan Library, who will highlight expansion plans for the #1 library system in the country. Good evening, Pat.
Good evening, President Council Ginther and Chair Tyson and members of Council. Appreciate the opportunity to come in on the invitation of Finance Chair Tyson to brief you not only on what is before you, but give you a quick overview of the library's capital improvement program that is launching at this point. You see the slide in front of you of the Ohio School for the Deaf, which is on the Historic Registry, which is on the directly east and a bit south of the existing main library. And that, of course, also is adjacent to Topiary Park, which you are familiar with, which is a wonderful community asset that we believe is underappreciated, in part because it was developed after the main library was opened in 1991. There really has been no relationship between the main library and the park, and this photo shows the narrow strip of land, which is really parking, that runs from the alley, which is to the north of the main library, all the way to Town Street. Our grand vision for this space is to allow us to create a great relationship between Topiary Park and the main library, adjacent and preserving the deaf school for either library purposes or use by others. And you see that this picture indicates that we would have a glass expansion that would help bring the library into the park and the park into the library. The real inspiration for this comes from Bryant Park, immediately adjacent to the New York Public Library. This was a space that also was greatly underutilized until the library decided to make wireless available in the park, to make books available in the park, and to do some of the things that we're doing right now, although with great difficulty, and that is bringing children all the way around the front of the library, all the way around the back, so that we can do concerts and story times and other kinds of activity. So we think the library will not only be able to do that on an ongoing basis, but it will be used for others as well. With regard to the entire capital project, I want to make sure that you're aware that we have 10 building projects, 7 in the city of Columbus. You see them highlighted in this slide. And these photos of residents of the city of Columbus, we're engaging them and just asking them to help us understand what they would like to see in our new libraries. And oftentimes that is around expanded homework help center space, increasing space for children in particular, and helping us integrate our Ready to Read program, which is really our attempts to help improve kindergarten readiness scores in the city of Columbus and other districts that we serve, to integrate that into the buildings as well. So we are working right now in the Driving Park Library, which will be on the corner of Kelton and Livingston, just a few blocks away from the existing library. And we think this represents a very exciting phase, not only in the library's history of the library, but also for the impact that we're going to have in the communities.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilmember Miller.
In looking at reinventing the libraries, you have increasing space for homework help centers. What about the possibility of workstations for desktop computers for the public to access?
Yeah, the slide doesn't do justice to list all of the things that we will be including, and indeed, right now with over 2.2 million reservations a year to reserve computer time in the library. That happens on about 1,600 computers that are available to the public. That remains a very viable service, and we have to not only expand the number of PCs available, but we hope to be moving into tablets as well to introduce that technology to the community.
Great.
Thank you very much, Chairman Tyson. I just wanted to make a comment. Pat, I happened to be at the Driving Park Civic Association meeting. I want to tell you how thrilled those folks are for the new library there. It's an exciting time. It's a wonderful community, as is all of our communities. But I think to continue to renovate, to continue to bring new technologies all over our city. As you know, I did a lot of my graduate work on the second floor of the main library, and it has meant so much to many of us. And I think this continues to open up doors of opportunity for our families and our children. Thank you for your foresight.
We appreciate that very much, and we also not only want to leverage what's happening within the walls of the library, but the people that we bring represent opportunities for economic development to an entire neighborhood, and so we want to try and leverage that foot traffic and that activity in the library as well. And we appreciate your vote of confidence.
I'm excited about the capital project, especially that, of course, we're remodeling and renovating the downtown library, and happy that we're going to have wireless outside and be able to bring that beautiful park into the library, as well as the library into the park. And so and to bring children there and adults there. So that's very exciting, but also that there's certainly a commitment to the rest of our community. And we really do appreciate that. And again, what Councilman Miller just stated, it is important. You've been such a great partner with this city, with different agencies in the community in terms of workforce development, and really appreciate all the work that you're doing in that regard also. So thank you, and just real excited about this particular project that you're doing right now. Councilman Mills.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair Tyson. I did want to find out where our neighbors and citizens can find out the details of which the slide cannot show about the changes. Where can they find? Is that on the website for the library? Or?
We do have a space dedicated on our website for each one of the projects. Since they are still getting going, there's not a great deal of information, and the main library at this point is just conceptual. We'll be starting space planning and review, and then ultimately moving into design. So as that information becomes available, we will be linking it. If you were to go there now, you'll see there's more information about Driving Park and Whitehall, our first two projects, and we will continue with all of those.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? John, do you want to? No? Thank you. Well, hearing no questions, excited about the renovation and the partnerships, and so with that, I'm going to move for passage.
Craig Klein Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you, President Ginther, and we look forward to coming to the newly renovated libraries in our community.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next legislation is Resolution number 0017X-2013 is to authorize the city auditor to request advance payments of property and real estate and estate taxes from Franklin, Fairfield, Delaware County auditors during 2013 and to declare an emergency. This resolution is an annual custom which is done in accordance with procedures prescribed in Chapter 321 of the Ohio Revised Codes for fiscal year 2013. Just want to make one comment about this legislation. And in this resolution, it says estate taxes. And I think most of you know, but according to Ohio law, the estate taxes will no longer be collected from persons who have died after January 1 of 2013. Now, mind you, anyone that has died prior to that has not gone ahead and closed their estate, we will still be able to receive those dollars, but anyone, of course, after January 1. And those are important dollars, have been important dollars to our community. In 2012, we received about $15 million in estate taxes. And typically, we receive between $9 and $10 million. And this year, as Mr. Dorian and certainly our Finance Director Paul Rakowski is putting together the budget for this year, looking at estimating 2013 to be about $4 million. So it's a significant amount of money that we're losing from in our state taxes, and this was a change from the state of Ohio. Mr. Dorian, do you have any other comments you would like to make?
Thank you, Ms. Tyson. The resolution or the ordinance simply will allow us to draw monies from the county in a more rapid basis rather than waiting for twice a year. So it's a cash flow advantage to the city. So I would ask you to adopt the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Dorian. I move for passage.
Craig Klein Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 0216-2013 to appropriate and authorize the city auditor to transfer $6,562,000 $562,248.50 from the Special Income Tax Fund to the Franklin County Convention Facilities Authority Fund for the purpose of providing secondary funding in the event that the Franklin County Convention Facilities Authority cannot meet its debt obligations, to appropriate and expend up to $7,316,826 within the Special Income Tax Fund for reimbursement to River South Authority and to make lease payments and to declare an emergency. This legislation does two things. First, it authorizes a $6,562,248.50 from the Special Income Tax Fund and to the Franklin County Convention Facilities Authority Fund, and second, authorizes the appropriation for $7,316,826 from the Special Income Tax Fund for lease payments for River South. This first appropriation of the $6 million is for the Special Income Tax Fund, provides backing as stipulated in the city's lease agreement with the Franklin County Convention Facilities Authority, CFA. However, the actual transfer of these funds will only occur if the CFA is unable to meet its debt obligations as outlined with the city. And then the second part of this is River South, and this is the arrangement that we established to make sure that the Lazarus building could be renovated. Under this arrangement, River South leases approximately 1 acre of land to the city of Columbus, and this lease will continue until 2024 when the bond should be paid. Mr. Dorian, do you want to add any other comments?
Thank you, Ms. Tyson, and all council members. This matter of payment on River South debt will continue at almost this exact amount of $7.3 million through the year 2024. In the year 2025, it will drop to about $4 million and cease at that point. So once again, the reference to the Franklin County Convention Facility Authority for the Convention Center, those payments, I do not anticipate any payments going to the authority for this purpose, but we are required to encumber the funds. So again, I ask you to adopt the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Dorian. And just want to mention that previously the lease payment was 7.5 to River South, and because of refunding, it's now 7.3. So with that, I'd like to move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson. President Ginther.
Thank you. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. Our next committee is the Development Committee. Councilmember Klein chairs that committee. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. Tonight in Development, 0071-2013, to authorize the Director of the Department of Development or designee to begin a pilot program at no cost to the city to allow outside entities to recycle building components of structures held by the city in the land reutilization program prior to demolition of said structures. To authorize the Director to enter into agreements with Clean Turn LLC, Habitat for Humanity, and other similar nonprofit entities to allow them to recycle, reuse, or resell such building components, to waive the requirements of Section 32930 of the Columbus City Code, and to declare an emergency. Deputy Director Brandon, I think this is a unique program, and it's a very good program for the City of Columbus to, as the legislation text reads, no cost to the city to administer this, but really give the opportunity for one, to use recycled materials that are in our vacant abandoned houses in our land bank, and two, really the entities involved, in particular Clean Turn, to give opportunities to ex-offenders, for example, to gain work and hopefully be able to use some of the proceeds of this recycled material to help pay for their wages. Am I correct on that?
Chairman Klein, yes, you are accurate in what you're stating there. Also, with regard to Habitat for Humanity, as you know, they have the Restore, and so some of the materials they may be able to take there and sell to earn money to use towards future developments that they have. So, yes.
So the recycled material, the recovered costs could go to perhaps pay for wages or to help build a Habitat for Humanity house. So really, it's kind of the circle of using the recycled material to get more bang for your buck for the progressive growth of either wages or for more houses to be built.
Yes, we will be entering into these agreements with both Clean Turn and Habitat and other nonprofits that are interested in this type of pilot program.
Great. Any questions or comments? I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
121, 2013, and then the last piece of legislation, 175, 2013, involved enterprise zone agreements, but I want to highlight them for the fact that they're one of the many tools that our city uses, enterprise zone agreements, job creation tax credits, and then as recently announced, the significant investment that the city of Columbus is making in small business, of why the unemployment rate in the city of Columbus is 5.5%. It's a full 2 points below the U.S. national unemployment rate, and it's over a point below the Ohio unemployment rate. So when you figure out the good work that this city council has done, the mayor's done, Deputy Director Brandon and the Department of Development has done in keeping and in getting the unemployment rate at 5.5%, and you factor in the fact that the population base here in Central Ohio, really, we're driving the state's economy, and it's in large part by the good work and the stewardship of this council, by Auditor Dorian and by Mayor Coleman, of why Ohio's unemployment rate is at 6.7%. Because when you take out Columbus's good work, it would make the unemployment rate in Ohio even larger. So I want to applaud the mayor, applaud Auditor Dorian for his stewardship, and certainly my colleagues here on council for the work that we're doing and the investments that we're making in business and small business to ensure that they have the success to succeed, or the opportunity to succeed. So 121, 2013, to authorize the Director of Department of Development to enter into an enterprise zone agreement with SEA Limited for a tax abatement of 75% for a period of 10 years on real property improvements in consideration of a proposed total capital investment of $9.4 million, with $9 million towards new construction and $400,000 for equipment, furnitures, and fixtures, and to declare an emergency. Any questions or comments? I move for passage.
Craig Klein Miller, Mills Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
148, 2013, to authorize an appropriation of $7,491,525 in various divisions and object levels of the Community Development Block Grant Fund to provide funding for approved programs and to declare an emergency. So this is CBDG fund, which is money that the city of Columbus receives from the federal government, and that money is given to us as a community, and we can use that money with certain restrictions, but in programs and instances where we think that it can make the most impact in a community. And here in Columbus, two examples of where we use a significant investment in CDBG funding is in housing and in health. And that's why Councilmember Tyson has co-sponsored this with me. Councilmember Tyson, would you like to add anything about CDBG funding?
Just a few words. Thank you, Chairman Klein. Just excited that these funds are going to be used really around pregnancy support for women, sexual health, and also early childhood education with the Columbus Kids Ready, Set, Learn. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. Any other questions or comments about CBDG funding and its effect on the city of Columbus? I move for passage.
Craig Klein Miller, Mills Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
And finally is 175, 2013, to amend Ordinance 1883, 2012, passed by the Columbus City Council on September 4, 2012, to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into an enterprise zone agreement with Pizzuti Short North LLC for a tax abatement of 75% for a period of 10 years on the increase in the assessed value of real property in consideration of a proposed total investment of $20.6 million for a new construction, tenant improvements, and the construction of a public parking garage, and to declare an emergency. Seeing no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Craig Klein Miller, Mills Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
And that wraps up everything that we have in development.
Thank you, Councilmember Klein. Our next committee is the Small and Minority Business Development Committee. President Pro Tem Miller chairs that committee. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. In the Small and Minority Business Development Committee, we have one item, is 2791, 2012, in which I would like to table for 1 week.
Craig Klein Miller, Mills Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you, President Ginther.
Thank you. Our next committee is the Public Safety and Judiciary Committee. Councilmember Mills chairs that committee. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. Tonight in Public Safety and Judiciary have the following ordinances, beginning with Ordinance 2846-2012. to authorize an amendment to the 2012 capital improvement budget, to authorize a transfer of funds within the capital improvement budget, and to authorize the Director of Public Safety to enter into a contract with Morphotrack, Inc. for the Division of Police for the purchase of additional hardware for additional storage capacity in accordance with sole source procurement, to authorize expenditure of $91,572 from the Capital Improvement Fund, and to declare an emergency. Currently, the division's existing paw print database should not exceed 200,000 records for optimal functionality given its current storage capacity. Within the past 60 days, this limit has been exceeded, causing the system to not work as efficiently as needed. With this purchase of additional server and storage capacity, the division will have the ability to store and retrieve an additional 200,000 palm print records. For everyone's knowledge, the palm print card is a supplement to the criminal or civil fingerprint card. If there are no other comments or questions, I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, have ordinance 0119-2013 to authorize an appropriation of $16,000 from the unappropriated monies in the Hazardous Material Incidents Reimbursement Fund for the Division of Fire to provide funds for supplies, equipment, and maintenance services needed for hazardous material incidents and to declare an emergency. The Division of Fire responds to hazardous material incidents and has a need to replace material and equipment previously used. Many of you may remember that last July, our Columbus Division of Fire and its hazmat team had to respond to a train derailment that forced 100 families to evacuate their homes. The flames and subsequent explosion were fueled by spilled ethanol from 30,000-gallon tank cars and could be seen from as far as 10 miles away. These purchases in this ordinance are necessary to keep our hazmat team safe from hazardous materials and from possible explosions related to them. There is no impact on the general fund for this legislation. The fund has been established for donations and collections from invoices associated with hazardous material incidents. If there are no other comments or questions, I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, I have ordinance 0146 to authorize and direct the city auditor to authorize the appropriation and transfer of $75,000 from the Indigent Drivers Alcohol Treatment Fund to fund the specialty docket and to declare an emergency. The specialty docket consists of three very distinct programs: the solicitation program, the addiction program, and the military and veterans court program. The solicitation program specialty docket, Changing Actions to Change Habits, is intended to provide a mechanism to support and promote effective treatment as an alternative to incarceration for individuals with multiple solicitation arrests. If there are no other comments or questions, I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
That's all I have in terms of legislation. I have one announcement, if you allow me a couple minutes. I would like to announce that this Wednesday at 5:00 p.m. I will be holding a hearing on proposed code changes to our vehicle for hire code, and we will be accepting speaker slips until 5:30 p.m. I encourage anyone who's interested in talking with us about the taxi cab, livery, and horse carriage industries to please come to our hearing on Wednesday, and certainly encourage everyone to fill out a speaker slip. And again, we will be accepting slips until 5:30 p.m. on this Wednesday. Looking forward to many individuals who this legislation could impact to please attend and express their concerns. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember Mills. Our next committee is the Public Service and Transportation Committee. Councilmember Paley chairs that committee. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. In Public Service and Transportation this evening, we have Ordinance 0073, 2013, to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into a contract with Newcomer Concrete Services, Inc. for construction of the pedestrian safety improvements, Southgate Drive and Ferris Road Sidewalks project for the Division of Mobility Options, to authorize the expenditure of $519,423.72 within the Street and Highway Geo Bonds Fund for the Division of Mobility Options, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance is the most current pedestrian safety improvement project. This legislation authorizes the Director of Public Service to enter into a contract with Newcomer Concrete Services for the construction of 2 sidewalk projects this year. With this legislation, the city will invest $520,000 to build sidewalks on Southgate Drive on the south side and on Ferris Road on the north side. On Southgate Drive, the city will build just over a half mile of sidewalk. This process will include 16 curb ramps to increase safety for residents in wheelchairs or with other mobility issues. Buckeye Middle School is only a half a block north of the intersection where these sidewalks are to be constructed, and the new sidewalks will increase safety for students and parents walking to and from school. The other sidewalk project in this legislation is on Ferris Road, which is adjacent to 3 schools, Brookhaven, St. Matthias Elementary School, and St. Francis de Sales High School. This project will also include just over a half a mile of sidewalk and 10 curb ramps. These sidewalk projects will ensure safety to the children walking to and from school, as well as all other pedestrians in this area. Another great thing about these 2 sidewalks projects is that 8 construction contractors submitted bids for these projects. That means a lot of great competition among companies who want to work for the city of Columbus. More competition means more competitive prices and better work that can save taxpayer money. Since 2000, Mayor Coleman and City Council have worked together to invest more than $23 million to build 80 miles of sidewalks across Columbus. I would like to thank Public Service Director Mark Kelsey and his staff for working with City Council to make these projects possible. I urge your support on this ordinance. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Then I would ask you to go back to page 9, where I look at ordinance 0080-2013 to authorize the Director of Public Service to pay for design service contracted between Ohio Health Corporation and Woolpert Incorporated, and agreed to between Ohio Health Corporation and the Director of Public Service in a design reimbursement agreement and construction reimbursement agreement to authorize the expenditure of $144,892.81 from the Local Transportation Improvement Grant Fund and to declare an emergency. I would first like to amend to 30-day legislation.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills.
Waive.
Call for voice vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Call for voice vote.
Craig.
Yes.
Klein. Miller. Mills.
Yes.
Wait, I think you're an abstain. Page 9. You can just say abstain. We haven't passed you yet.
Abstain.
Yes.
Paley. Tyson.
Yes.
President Ginther.
I would like to move to waive second reading by voice vote.
Craig. Klein. Miller. Mills.
Abstain.
Paley.
Yes.
Tyson.
Yes.
President Ginther.
Then I'd like to move for passage by voice vote.
Second.
Craig. Klein. Miller. Mills.
Abstain.
Paley.
Yes.
Tyson.
Yes.
President Ginther.
That's all we have on public service and transportation this evening. President Ginther, may I move on to public utilities? In public utilities, we have ordinance 0077-2013 to authorize the director of the Department of Public Utilities to accept a payment resulting from a settlement in a class action lawsuit against Syngenta Crop Protection Incorporated, case number 310CV00188 JPG PMF, City of Greenville versus Syngenta Crop Protection Incorporated and Syngenta AG in the United States District Court for the Southern District of Illinois. It further authorizes the city auditor to deposit the settlement funds into the water operating fund and to declare an emergency. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, there are three ordinances that had first readings on January 14th, 2013, and should have appeared this evening for a second reading, and they were just brought to my attention. So I would like to bring from the floor ordinance 2860, 2012, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a contract with a Splend Tree Expert Company for power line clearance services for the Division of Power and Water, and to authorize the expenditure of $311,000 from the Electricity Operating Fund and $60,000 from the Water Operating Fund. Councilmember Klein.
Thank you, Councilor Chair Paley. Just because they were brought from the floor, is it okay to ask the director maybe just a quick explanation of what these are?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Director Davies.
Chair Paley, Councilman Klein, just to clear trees when we go to do routine maintenance on streetlights and with the weather that we have and windstorms and stuff like that, it's just to be able to go out and clear trees.
All three of these ordinances were previously on first reading a week ago and just got omitted from the second reading. But we can clearly give explanations on all three of them. If there are no other comments or questions, I'll move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, we have ordinance 2848, 2012, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into an agreement with GRW Engineers for professional engineering services for the Florence Avenue area water line improvement project, and to authorize an expenditure of $121,169.70 from the Water Works Enlargements Voted Bond Fund for the Division of Water. Director Davies, could you give us a short explanation of this ordinance?
Chair Paley, members of council, as you know, we do lots of projects rehabbing water lines, sewer lines. This is just to enter into contract with a design professional to design the work that will be done, and later we'll be back to get construction approval as well.
Are there any other questions or comments? I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, we have ordinance 2844, 2012, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into an agreement with CT Consultants Incorporated for professional engineering services for the Fenway Road area water line improvements project, and to authorize the expenditure of $132,605.45 from the Water Works Enlargement Voted Bonds Fund for the Division of Water. Director Davies, can we give a small explanation?
Sure. It's the same explanation as the previous piece of legislation, just doing some water work and need to hire an engineer to design the work.
There are no questions or comments. I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
That's all I have on public utilities this evening, President Ginther.
If there's nothing else to come before council this evening, we do have two non-agenda speakers that we'll take momentarily, and we will reconvene for zoning at 6:30. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. Clerk, call the roll.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Stand adjourned. Clerk, call the roll.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Are there any communications and reports received by the city clerk?
No, there are not.
Are there any first readings of 30-day legislation?
No, there are not.
We now go to the zoning committee. President Pro Tem Miller chairs the committee. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. In the zoning committee tonight, we have three items. The first one is 94-2013 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3363.01 M Manufacturing District of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 1220 Williams Road to permit an existing single-unit dwelling in the M Manufacturing District. The applicant is Bonnie Hutzinger, Proposed use is to form an existing single-unit dwelling in the M Manufacturing District. It received the Far South Columbus Area Commission recommendation for approval and also the City Department recommendation for approval. And I have no speaker slips. I would like to first to waive second readings if there are no questions or comments.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, I'd like to move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Next is 101-2013 to amend ordinance number 0713-2010, passed May 24, 2010, for property located at 50 Cardinal Park Drive, thereby amending the commercial plan development plan and text in the section 3 as it pertains to total unit and parking space counts and to declare an emergency. This ordinance was passed May 24th, and the applicant desires to increase the unit count to 114 because it was mistakenly calculated when the zoning application was filed in 2010. I'd like to first to amend to emergency if there are no questions or comments.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
And this also did receive the Far East Area Commission recommendation for approval and also the City Department recommendation for approval. So next, I would like to move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
And last is 125-2013 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 333-2.037 R2F Residential District, 3312.49 minimum number of parking spaces required, 333-2.05 area district lot width requirements, 333-2.21F building lines, 333-2.25 maximum side yard permitted, and 333-2.26 minimum side yard permitted of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 172 Thurman Avenue to permit a general office and a single unit dwelling on the same lot with reduced development standards in the R2F residential district. The applicant is Mark Ayers. Proposed use is office and single unit dwelling on one lot. It received the German Village Commission recommendation for approval and also the City Department recommendation for approval. If there are no questions or comments, I'd like to first to waive second reading.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
And lastly, I'd like to move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
And that is all we have in zoning tonight.
Thank you, Chairman Miller. Anything else to come before the Zoning Committee this evening? Not. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Stand adjourned.